was a cold January morning in 2006, and I approached our business, and rather than taking the closest entranceway to the building, I walked around the building 150 feet to the visitor's entrance because I did not want to face my brothers, who are my partners. We'd moved in this building 60 days before. We'd gone from 5,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet. And not only was the angst of the move creating tension, and not only the angst of the holiday season causing tension, but they bought. One brother bought food, and one other brother brought equipment, and I had to pay for that. And we were buying more than we could pay for. So we'd had toxic arguments. The previous Friday was the worst meltdown that we had ever had. We threatened physical harm, we used obscenities. It was really disgusting and toxic. So I crept into my desk, sat down. I was going to amp myself up for war by drinking a lot of coffee, and two young people approached me. They approached the desk. Their name was Tim, who was 24 years old, and Jamie, who was 23 years old. And they said, "Change or we're leaving." I said, "Change what?" And I thought, change? Why don't you just walk out the door? Leaving might be better for all of us. But I knew that these two were brilliant. I had known them from an early age. They had started working for me at about 15 years old. Through high school, college. In fact, Jamie got her undergraduate degree here at ISU in integrated marketing communications. I knew they were brilliant. They were just brilliant kids. And they were our future. My brothers and I were getting older. I was in my mid-50s. Our valuation of our business came in 2 months before as we're doing financing for the purchase of this building. And the valuation was really poor. And I realized I was too old to generate money much longer. So I wanted them to generate money. But as an alpha male, I couldn't handle this challenge. So I thought for a moment, and I made a statement that was anything but normal. I said, well, what should we do? What could we do? What would you do? I was vulnerable. I said, I don't know what to do. I can't change. I am who I am. I've been this way. Why don't you tell us what we should do? And Tim said, for 35 years, it might have worked being a command and control person in business, but it's not going to work with us. Our generation doesn't want to put up with that. Yeah, they were true. That was right. So I said, well, what other way is there to lead? I was thinking that employees are revenue generators. I pay them. They generate money for me, I pay them, they generate money for me, and that's how life goes. Very transactional, not transformational. They said they wanted an employee-generated business, or employee-generated culture. This was all foreign to me. What does that mean? They wanted the employees to design our core values, our culture statement, our vision, our mission. I said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll go talk to my brothers and see if we can support you. And we did, and they started the movement. By that Friday, Tim had ordered books, the great business book of Jim Collins, The Great Game of the Good to Great, and brought it into our company because it came in Spanish and English. And we wanted to make sure our Spanish-speaking people could understand the written word as well as the English-speaking people. Then they chose 100 core values, organizational core values that they found on the internet, and gave that to every employee in the company, both in Spanish and English. They got rid of the silos that my brothers and I had arranged and broke the company into teams. Each team had between 5 and 9 people. And they delegated to the teams that they had to do the book club and read the book by the second week in March. About 7 weeks they gave them to read the book and do the book club. Then they said you have to assign 3 to 5 core values that would work within your team. The third week of March in 2006, we convened our first Good to Great Council. One representative from each team. My brothers and I took the right to select those people because if we're going to build a core value and a culture system, we wanted it to be based not on the popular people within the team, but the people that we thought through our acquired wisdom would be people that could build a lasting company. Of those 9 people we selected, 8 are still with us, 10 years later. So they went into the room And my brothers and I were told we could come to the room, but there was no table, there was no room at the table. We did not have a seat at the table. We could sit in the corner. So we sat in the corner like the Three Stooges, Moe, Curly, and Larry. And they said if we wanted to ask a question, we could raise our hand, but we probably would not be asked the question. So we sat there, and Tim wrote all of the core values on a whiteboard, filled the whiteboard completely, and patterns started to emerge. We found out that certain values are repeated by every team: respect, ethics, morals, behavior, quality. And this was a tremendous learning lesson for me because I did not think that they thought that way. They were just revenue generators. The first core value was we'll always be moral, ethical, and legal. My father taught us, if you're always moral and ethical, you don't have to worry about being legal. I don't know if that still holds, but it did back in the 50s and 60s. The second core value was treat all with respect. At that point, I said, this is magic because that's a foundation for a great culture. And they went on to name 7 more. This took 3 weeks. They'd bring it back to their teams. The teams would approve it. They'd bring it back to the Good to Great Council and say, all right, this is definite. We've established these 7. We got to the BHAG, the Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal, which Jim Collins says is your ultimate vision. You should never, ever achieve it. It's just beyond, but you're going to always strive for it. And our Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal, BHAG, is to be the most recognized and respected brand in our industry. I said, aha, I got them on this one. So I raised my hand, and they called at me, and I said, where's Catering? Another brilliant young millennial who was in charge of our marketing team. She was 22 years old at the time. She had worked with us since she was 14 or 15, all the way through high school and college. Erin said, if we put catering in there, all we'll ever be is caterers. Our GPS will be locked in catering. But Jim Collins said, you get the right people on the bus, you put them in the right seat, and the bus will just travel by itself. She said, why limit it with a GPS to cater? Why don't you say we'll be the most recognized and respected brand? Little did I realize how prophetic that young lady was. Stunningly how prophetic she was. So we did the typical thing in an organization. We put the poster boards up with our core values and our culture statement, and we put them in all the cubes, but it was just hanging on walls, right? For about 6 weeks, it was exciting. There was a positive attitude in the company. Then my brothers and I reverted to our old ways. I'm an alpha dog, and I will never let anybody control me. I need all the power, and I started to exert the power again, and I realized, how wrong is this? But we couldn't make it to come to life. I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for a few days, for a while. But I realized by going to AA meetings that repeating the 12 steps over and over, I understood that I was powerless over alcohol. I said it for a while, but the first step is I am powerless over alcohol. After saying it for 40 or 50 times, I believed it. I believed it. So I said, why not take the same application to our core values and our culture statement? So we repeat it. To this day, we repeat it before every meeting of 5 people or more. We repeat the whole culture statement. So if the meeting starts at 1:30, somebody will say, such as you, we will always be moral, ethical, and legal. And it goes to the next person. We'll treat all with respect. And it goes around until the whole culture statement is set. Sometimes you'll say 2 or 3 culture statements because it's a small meeting. But eventually, it became conscious. People were talking about it. Then it became subconscious. They started behaving that way. And it became subliminal. The behavior in the organization changed. And people were treating each other with respect. But they were treating themselves. We were behaving internally by ourselves, but how do I challenge you? So we put numbers in front of the core values, 7 core values. And we invoked the right, everybody had the right to call somebody out for not behaving by using the number of the core value. Well, who do you think was the first one called out? Of course, you take down the alpha dog, you got the whole pack, right? So one day, one of our special event ladies had sold a big event and forgot to charge $4,000 for the liquor. It's automatically default to no payment, no charge, and you have to put the correct charge in. So I read the after-action report in the middle of the night, drinking a bottle of water, and of course I couldn't go back to sleep. I went in and got amped up on caffeine to attack Sherry when she walked in the door. She cost the company $4,000. And now I had to report to our Good to Great Council why we weren't being profitable, right? So Sherry came in and sat at her desk. I didn't give her much time, right? Attack her while she's weak. And I started to lambast Sherry. She turned around and said to me, "Is this number 2?" Yeah, I laughed too, internally. I was really nervous because I heard 15 people stop talking in that office. 15 people in the sales department absolutely shut up. 30 ears were directed to what was going to happen next. Thank the Lord that I said, "No, I apologize. What I did was wrong. I shouldn't have said it that way." And she said, "Well, I apologize for violating core value number 7. I was not responsible for my area of discipline." And I said, "Okay." We laughed, we hugged, and it was over with. It was the first challenge. It was the first of many tribal stories that are entered into our book now, our culture book, that we teach new employees when we onboard them, that this is the way our culture operates. A little while later, Erin, this brilliant young lady, just brilliant, came to me with new business cards. And she said, "Here's your new business cards. We've decided to change your title." This was getting a little out of control, right? So my new title is Chief Culture Officer. What the heck does that mean? And I said, "Okay, what does this mean? I have to repeat the culture myself over and over because I lose my temper?" She says, "No, we have great antecedents. Our antecedents are core values in our culture. Then comes behaviors. If the behaviors are right, the consequences or the outcome of the organization will be perfect all the time. We won't need a president. We won't need a CEO. We just make sure that our behaviors are done properly." Later on, I explained that to an academic friend of mine. He says, "That's organizational behavior." Duh. Yeah. It's organizational behavior, antecedents, behaviors, consequences. Peter Drucker said the outcome of every organization is directly related to his behaviors. So what did this young lady say to me? She's probably 25 or 26 at the time. "You're in charge of the success of the company, but in a different way. You have to learn about people." My brother my brother still takes care of the business product. I used to take care of the business model, the actual administration of the organization. And she said, "You got to release that. You got to focus on people." So now when I'm in town, I spend 70% of my time focusing on people, talking to the people in the organization. And I found that those people are not revenue generators. They are somebody. They're important. Erin went on to put up successory pictures along the walls, 15 of them throughout our company. And I walked in one day and I thought, who the heck did this? They didn't ask for my permission. They didn't tell me. The old control came back to me. And I found out it was Erin. So I asked her, "Can you explain why this happened?" And she said, "Look closely at them." I looked closely, put my glasses on and looked at them. All the photos were pictures of our employees engaged in activities. And the quotes underneath were directly related to those pictures. Wow. So who's the most important person here? You are, right? It's right of survival. No one's more important than me or you. So what do you think the employees did? Every time they had a visitor or something, go point out the picture. There's me and my team. This is what we're doing. So she said, "This is an artifact. We have established our values. We have espoused values. Now we have artifacts that support it. Now it's just going to become an assumed behavior. The artifacts support it." If anybody heard of Edgar Schein, she was quoting Schein to me. This is what Schein says, part of organizational behavior and development. So I was learning graduate level school classes through this young lady. She was teaching me how I should learn theory. So the outcome, let's fast forward to the end of this. The outcome was pretty amazing. I expected that we'd have a sales increase. We've had incredible sales increases. What I didn't expect was that the profit increase would be even more drastic than the sales increase. Last year we had a 10% sales increase and a 57% profit increase, and this continues to accelerate. The flywheel gets sparked every year. The unexpected, the unanticipated outcome, though, the first one, was how change affected so drastically and so quickly. And I'd heard organizational change fails, but it's because 100% of the people were involved in the change and asked their opinion on how to change the culture. And they were explained how it impacted them by these two, Tim and Jamie. Well, it didn't come from me. It came from the employees. Tim said, if they make the change, they'll own it, it'll work. 24 years old, he told me that. 23 years old, I opened my first business, so I should have respected him. But to me, he was still a young, dumb kid. He's brilliant. He started 7 companies on his own in the last 8 years. Tim did. So the second one was generation integration. I realized I came to the conclusion, it took me a long time to figure this out, but millennials love responsibility. We've heard about the change, 4 jobs, 7 jobs in your career lifetime. How about 1 job? How about making an investment in somebody and finding out they're the right person, it's the right fit? And you can do that through shared values, shared culture. But what I found out, and I'm speaking in a generality, please don't be upset if I don't apply this to you. We, boomers, older people, expect young people to wait 10 years to earn scars before they have decisions and responsibility. We give responsibility from day one. And within 30 days, you have to tell us what you want to own, where you make the decisions and how the decisions work. You just have to be, our core value number 7, you're free but responsible to do what you need to do within your circle of discipline. Not only that, they're technology literate. Technology literate. You want to see the apex of my technology? Flip phone. Dumb phone. So I bow to millennials because I don't know anything about technology. I just study people now. Then they know social marketing. Talk about Instagram and tweet. I don't know any of that stuff. There's somebody in Chicago that's tweeting right now about my experience down here, but I don't know how to do it. I tried to get onto Twitter today on my iPad. They taught me how to do that. And it said my password was blocked or something, so I gave up on it. So the people that connected with me on Twitter, I apologize. Just wait till I talk to Jamie and she'll figure it all out. It'll happen. So they also understand emerging markets. I don't understand emerging markets. Some of my favorite recording heroes when I was young was John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, right? Wrote some great songs. When have they released a great song recently? They don't. We lose our creative juices. So I don't know where the emerging markets are. I still think the best marketing format of all is Yellow Pages. Big argument I had with Tim like 10 years ago is we need a bigger Yellow Page presence. He said, nobody looks at Yellow Pages anymore. How dumb are you? Pretty dumb. Then I found out the Gen Xers are the perfect bridge. They understand millennials and they understand boomers, and they create our systems and processes, and it just evolved. I stood back and I did an ethnographic study, studying our people, and I said, these Gen Xers are marvelous. They know how to bridge the gap between us. And the boomers, of course, my favorite generation. The boomers, we understand acquired wisdom. We possess so much wisdom because we've gone through so much emotional intelligence development, pain, sorrow, death, all the things that millennials don't understand to 10th degree of what we are with our emotional intelligence development. We also have contacts. I might have a dumb phone, but there's 147 phone numbers in here of very important people that I could just press a button and talk to somebody. We also have access to capital. We have the ability to generate funds to help young people. This is something that I did not. This is an unanticipated outcome. These are the people that have started the 7 companies in the last 8 years. This is Erin, the blonde up in the upper left corner. Brilliant, brilliant person. One of the most intelligent people by far that I've ever met. Next to her is Jamie and Tim. The 3 of them have been friends since they were probably in junior high school. Very close friends. They get together tremendously. One of the companies the 3 of them own together, we have an equity position in. And all of the companies, we have an equity position or an interest. We have an investment interest. But in the lower left, this is a family from Mexico. They're now legal citizens of the United States. And they said, the guy on the left is our operations director, next to him is our production director, driver supervisor, and our number 2 lady in the kitchen, number 2 person in the kitchen. They started a transportation company. So we lease trucks from them to keep them in good standing financially. We also help them find avenues to do truck deliveries. And the guy on your right, Paul Suggs, is one of the greatest living human beings I've ever met. Paul is a delivery driver for us, a brand ambassador, and he comes from the inner city of Chicago out to Elk Grove Village, the largest industrial park in the United States, and he sees all the help wanted signs in Elk Grove Village. And in his home in the inner city, there's no jobs. So he said, can I buy one of your used vans and start transporting people from my neighborhood out to the suburbs so they can have jobs? Now, Paul no longer works for us because he's so successful. He has 4 vans, and he has contracts with employment agencies to deliver people to jobs. Paul's a phenomenal human being. I'll relay that applause to Paul. I'll let him see that, because Paul is truly one of God's chosen few. These are the companies that they've started. Every one of them is the most recognized and respected brand in their industry. Every one of them is more profitable than the companies that I started. In fact, they started the Arizona real estate for the people that wanted to be business owners in our companies but didn't have an idea. And so that's an investment in some suppressed real estate in Arizona that's now achieved 150% growth in value since they've invested their money. So in closing, I'd like to just quote from the Reverend William Borders, the Wheat Street Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. I read this poem when I was a sophomore in high school, but it had absolutely no meaning to me. It wasn't pertinent. But once I realized that our employees were not revenue generators, that they were important people, and employee engagement was something else, an unexpected explosion in our company. When we first did employee engagement, we were at 48%. 2 years ago, we peaked at 98% employee engagement. Last year, we were at 94%. 6 people disengaged. They might have personal problems or other issues, but nobody actively disengaged. No toxicity in the workplace. But employee engagement is the emotional commitment someone has to their organization's values, vision, and mission, which results in higher discretionary thinking. You have 60,000 thoughts a day. The average employer gets between 6 and 8%. If we could get that to 10 to 12%, it'd be 250,000 more thoughts for our organization, positive thoughts. So the emotional commitment is the top part of leadership too. First is earning respect. You own my respect. I don't own my respect. You own my trust. And the pinnacle of leadership is emotional commitment, where people actually care for you and you care for them. I love our people. Hopefully they love me. I know it's not politically correct to say you love somebody in the workplace, but I'm not politically correct. I'm a child of the 60s, love, peace, groovy, far out, power to the people. I know all those sayings. I don't know the modern sayings. But this love for people, love for the people that work for us, as we peeled back the onion skins and we peeled back Paul and the Rios family, we found out that these people were phenomenal human beings. This is the poem. I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember it exactly. I might be black, brown, white, or yellow. I am somebody. My clothes may be different. My hair might be different, but I am somebody. I must be respected, never neglected, never rejected, for I'm God's child. I am somebody. Thank you.